Hello and welcome to this episode of Dodge Adventures. Our goal for today is to visit the Robert Cole Memorial. And Robert Cole, he was the commander of the 3rd Battalion of the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division. He landed on the drop zones near Somme and then became deeply involved in the battle for Brest. On the second day of the operation, the 18th of September, he was tragically killed by a sniper's bullet. Well, we're going to visit his memorial now. On our way, drive through some terrain, some rough, some normal terrain, have some fun, and then pay our respects at the memorial. So hop on board and enjoy the ride. In this series we will be visiting World War II battlefields, monuments and locations in and around the Netherlands. And we'll be visiting them in this, my Dodge weapons carrier, a World War II vehicle, officially a Dodge WC-51 that was built during World War II. I've had it for about 16 years now, and in the future we'll do a video in which we'll properly introduce it. Today we have a different plan, so we're going to drive to the Robert Cole Memorial, and to do that we'll drive up Hell's Highway, past the Koevering battle site, across the 101st Airborne drop zones, and then we'll reach the monument. So we've got some driving to do, buckle up and let's go. So here we are at the Robert Cole Memorial, unveiled on the 18th of September 2009, exactly 65 years after he was killed. At the unveiling ceremony his son was here, as well as 101st Airborne veterans and then serving 101st Airborne soldiers. Born in 1915 in Fort Sam Houston, Texas, Robert G. Cole was the son of an army doctor, so the army life was spoon-fed to him. Following in his father's footsteps, though not as a doctor, he graduated from West Point in 1939 and in 1942 he joined the paratroopers. Cole quickly moved up the ladder to become the commander of the 3rd Battalion of the 502nd Parachute Infantry Regiment of the 101st Airborne Division. On the eve of D-Day, General Eisenhower visited the 3rd Battalion on their departure airfield and he talked to Robert Cole. The visit was recorded by a cameraman and you can see some of the footage here. Cole and his men then took off for Normandy, and after 5 days of heavy fighting, the 101st Airborne found itself on the edge of Carentan. This town had to be taken to connect the forces coming from Omaha Beach with those that had landed at Utah Beach. Let's watch and listen to Cole as he describes the objective of the 3rd Battalion attack, which was spearheading the assault of the division.
I'm Colonel R.G. Cole, Lieutenant Colonel R.G. Cole, 3rd Battalion, 502nd Parachute Infantry, 101st Airborne Division. We were ordered on June 10th to come up this road, take Carentan, and proceed some mile and a half beyond Carentan to a point called Bayonet as the battalion objective.
The battalion was attacking across the causeway between Deadman's Corner and Carentan. This was under unrelenting German fire and many men were killed or wounded. The causeway was later dubbed Purple Heart Lane by the paratroopers. Robert Cole was personally leading his battalion in forcing the 4 bridges that dissected the causeway. When they finally were able to cross the last bridge, the attack bogged down under even heavier German fire. Cole continues the story.
About 3:30, the initial elements of the battalion, a leading platoon of G Company, commanded by Lieutenant Irwin, started across, 1 man at a time, in about 1 minute intervals. We had no trouble with enemy fire initially. However, as soon as the men got along the banks here in any numbers, and if they did not stay down, the enemy fired quite heavily on the roadway and on the bridge. Also at times when the men tried to get across the bridge and with their machine guns and their ammunition, and 2 or 3 of them would get bunched up there, the enemy would open fire and shooting 88 that would come right across and land in the water.
For over an hour, the devastating and unceasing enemy fire prevented any move and inflicted numerous casualties. Robert Cole, observing this almost hopeless situation, courageously issued the order to assault the enemy positions with fixed bayonets.
I issued the order for a bayonet charge. These orders I passed, controlled, had to be issued verbally because most of the radios were not working, and I had to pass them up and down the ditches inside the road and also back through the columns just by individuals. The orders were pretty well understood, however, and on the whistle signal, the 3/4 of the battalion rose up out of the ditch and charged across this direction here and across in through there, with the initial objective being the orchard the other side of the house here.
With utter disregard for his own safety and completely ignoring the enemy fire, he rose to his feet in front of his battalion and with his drawn pistol he shouted to his men to follow him in the assault. He found a fallen man's rifle with a bayonet and with it he charged on, leading the remnants of his battalion across the bullet-swept open ground and into the enemy positions. His heroic and valiant action and his inspiring leadership of his men resulted in a bridgehead on the outskirts of Carentan. For this action, Robert Cole would be awarded the Medal of Honor. The next mission was Operation Market Garden, in which part of the 3rd Battalion was tasked to take the bridges across the Wilhelmina Canal at best. The mission didn't go according to plan, and late on the 17th of September, the 3rd Battalion moved into positions along this road. The next morning, instead of attacking towards Best to try and take the bridges, the 3rd Battalion was heavily engaged in a battle with a numerically superior enemy that launched an all-out attack on their positions. It was during this attack that disaster struck. On the morning of September 18, 1944, in the fields behind me, Robert Cole was killed by a sniper. At that time, the Germans had launched a massive counterattack going towards the camera, trying to infiltrate and break through the American lines, which were in the tree line. Robert Cole was in luck because there was air support available, But of course disaster struck when these planes, these P-47 fighter planes, strafed the American positions by mistake. And there were some recognition panels laid out where we are now to signal the pilots where the Americans were and where the Germans were, but these were not very visible. So Robert Cole went out himself into the open field. He repositioned the recognition panel, and then he stood up and looked at the incoming planes. At that time he was hit by a sniper round which went in his head. He fell to the floor. He was alive for a couple more minutes, but then he passed away, and they laid him to rest in a foxhole covered with a parachute. Later, after the war, he was buried at Margraten American Cemetery in the Netherlands, where he still is at this time. On October 4th, 1944, 16 days after his untimely death, Cole would be awarded the Medal of Honor for the bayonet charge at Carentan. 2 weeks later, on the parade ground at Fort Sam Houston, where Cole had played as a child, the Medal of Honor was presented to his mother, Clara Cole, while his widow, Allie, and his 2-year-old son looked on. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do, like and subscribe or leave me a comment. I always enjoyed reading those. More Dodge adventures coming, so please keep an eye open for my next video. It's running. See you, bye bye.